I'm not going to sugarcoat this, so let's just dive right into it. I'm sure that everybody is, by this time, aware of what happened to Justin Roiland, the co-creator of Rick and Morty. But if you're unfamiliar with what happened, first of all, there's thousands of videos that you can go look up because, my god, people just latched onto that thing. There are so many videos explaining the entire thing in detail. But basically, to kind of boil it down, he was accused of domestic assault, SA, and crimes of that nature. And because of this, Adult Swim has decided to completely cut ties with him. They're done with him. He's done with Rick and Morty, everything. Which unfortunately came as a surprise to me. And the only reason I say unfortunately now is because we kind of live in a time where there are people, especially big celebrities, who have done stuff like this and have gotten away with it because the networks or companies that they work for refuse to take action. Ezra Miller immediately comes to mind, the way that Warner Brothers handled that situation, and that kind of left a bad taste in my mouth. And so I was surprised when Cartoon Network or Adult Swim or whoever decided to completely cut ties with Justin Roiland. And you know, I think it's a really good thing that they actually took action. But that also leaves a very important question, one that I've been asking myself for a while. What are they going to do now? The reason I'm asking is because they fully intend to continue making seasons of Rick and Morty. But I see that being a real challenge without Justin. Reason being is because he does like half the voices on that show, maybe even more, including but not limited to Rick and Morty. Kind of the main people of that show. I think it'd be a very similar situation to if Seth MacFarlane was kicked off his own show. I know it's kind of different because I think Seth does a lot more voices, but I also think it's very, very similar. The question is, what are they going to do, and will the show even be able to continue? And that's what we're talking about today. So without Justin, they're going to need to find a voice actor or voice actors, plural. And I think it's going to be very interesting to see what they do with that, because Justin wasn't in charge of just one character. He wasn't in charge of just two. He was in charge of Rick, Morty, and a bunch of other side characters. So it kind of leaves the question, what are they going to do? Are they going to find one person that can fill the role of Justin and do all of these voices? Because I can definitely see that being a real challenge, and I mean like a really big challenge, because Justin's voice was really unique and things that he was able to do with his voice, and I think it's going to be hard to find somebody who can fill that role and do it accurately and be able to do all the things that he did. And I can see that being a real challenge for the creators of Rick and Morty. But that also leaves to another side. Are they going to hire multiple people? Are they going to hire somebody for Rick? Are they going to hire somebody for Morty and then voices for a bunch of other side characters? Because I can also see that being a real challenge. Reason being is because now you're not just paying one person, you're paying multiple people. And I feel like that can kind of get convoluted, and I think that might cause a, what do we call it, economic strain. I don't think they're short on money, but I think that they would rather spend less money than more, kind of like most people in the world. It's also going to be really interesting because Justin was kind of there in making the story as well. He was not only a voice actor, but he was part of, you know, some creative aspects, and without him, it's going to be really interesting to see how the rest of the creators of the show kind of approach what they're going to do in the future. Like, what stories are they going to do? Because they obviously had stuff lined up after the ending of last season. The question now is, are they going to continue that story, or if they're going to try to do something from scratch? Justin leaving really put a wrench in a lot of the plans that I assumed that they were going to do. So it makes me wonder if we're going to get a completely different Rick and Morty, or if it's going to change, and more importantly, if it's going to succeed. Which leads to one of the final points. Will people want to watch the show? What Justin did was despicable and horrible, and there's no way of defending the things that he did. Not at all. There's no universe where you can defend actions like that. But at the same time, he is kind of the face of Rick and Morty, or one of the major heads of Rick and Morty. And so will people want to watch the show if they know that he's no longer there? And more importantly, will they want to watch the show if there's a different voice actor for Rick and Morty and everybody else? I don't care how good of an impressionist that you hire or how good of a voice actor you get, it will not be the same. And listen, we've all seen it everywhere. We've seen it on TikTok, we've seen it on funny YouTube videos, people who imitate the Rick and Morty voices, and while people are really good at it, they are not perfect at it. Nobody has been able to capture it 100% what Justin was able to do. And I feel like when they get a new voice actor, because they're gonna need a new voice actor, I feel like it's not gonna have the same oomph to it, if that makes any sense. I feel like people are going to be watching the show with these new voice actors, and they're going to realize that, oh, it's not the same. And while their actions of getting a new voice actor is 100% justified, and more than that necessary, I think it's going to be different because people are going to notice that it's not the same, and that's going to turn some people off. There's no win situation here. It's a lose-lose situation all around. There's no path that they can take where everything can go back to normal because they just can't. Sure, they can minimize the damage of what's been done, but at the same time, I think that ship is way past sailed. Which leads to the final question: is Rick and Morty doomed? Is it already dead? Because even if you get a new voice actor for all the characters that Justin has left behind, and even if they do a fantastic job, the one problem that they're going to be dealing with now is the fact that there's this bad taste in everybody's mouth when it comes to Rick and Morty. When people look at Rick and Morty now, one of the things that they're going to think about now is the situation of what happened. They're going to remember, oh yes, the co-creator is no longer there, and oh yes, this isn't the same voice actors for that stuff. Now that's the worst case scenario, but I also think that it's the most likely scenario. Reason being is because the Rick and Morty fan base is fiercely, and I mean like fiercely loyal. The problem is if they're so loyal to the show that they're not willing to accept any major changes, even though those changes are necessary. I mean, they said they wanted what, 9 seasons, and this next one's going to be 7. So they got through most of the seasons, which I guess is better, but at the same time, I don't know if they'll be able to continue the way that they want it to continue. Without the main voice actor and without one of the creators for actually writing the story, it's just gonna be weird. It's gonna be different. And while I'm sure that Dan, the other creator of Rick and Morty, the other head of Rick and Morty, while I'm sure they already had kind of a road that they wanted to go down, it's the execution of that plan that I'm more worried about. Will they be able to execute it properly and keep old watchers of the show on? From their past, and I remember in high school when I used to watch the show a lot, I remember that they were very, very, how do I put it, kind of loosey-goosey about the way that they did their stories. I don't think they plan a whole lot ahead of time, and I feel like that's kind of a problem sometimes because, you know, for a couple seasons there's like a multi-year gap, and while in later seasons that gap has shrunken significantly, I think we're about to get a very big gap here. Understandably though. So, is Rick and Morty doomed? Is the departure of Justin Roiland a death sentence for the show, or is everything going to be okay? Are they going to be able to push past everything that just happened within these past couple weeks? And are they going to be able to not only continue the show, but also eventually, one day, give it the ending it deserves? Well, I guess we're going to have to find out. But that's it for me today. Thank you so much for watching, if indeed you still are. If you want to help me out, click that thing on the left or that thing on the right. You click this thing on the right, we'll be best friends forever. And I do mean forever. Forever and ever. But that's it for me today. My name is Brockster, and I bid you all adieu.